Renewable energy has overtaken coal as the primary global electricity source. Renewables provide 36% of the world's power, while coal dropped to 32%. This shift is supported by 3,610 gigawatts of installed capacity, primarily hydropower, wind, and solar. Coal generation has fallen to its lowest share of the power mix in a century. Fossil fuels are increasingly being displaced by cleaner alternatives that can now meet and exceed all new demand growth. New renewable installations are now more cost-effective than fossil fuels in over 90% of global markets. This economic advantage drove clean energy investment to a record $2.2 trillion in 2025. This chart tracks total installed capacity over 20 years. While early growth was significant, the last decade saw a threefold increase. Solar and wind are the primary drivers. Since 2015, solar generation increased 16-fold to 754 gigawatts, and wind rose fourfold to over 1,000 gigawatts. China accounts for 60% of this growth. By 2026, it possesses 570 gigawatts of wind capacity, meeting its 2030 renewable targets 5 years early. Standard industry forecasts consistently underestimate the pace of this transition. Industrial scaling and mature supply chains have allowed renewables to account for 90% of all new power capacity added worldwide. While large economies provide absolute volume, several smaller nations operate almost entirely renewable grids. Uruguay maintains a 99% renewable mix. This reliable, carbon-free baseload power is attracting heavy industrial investment, including hyperscale data centers for tech firms. Denmark is on track for a 100% renewable grid by late 2026. Nearly half its wind turbines are locally owned, integrating energy security into communities. Kenya generates 90% of its electricity from clean sources, relying heavily on geothermal power to balance seasonal fluctuations in hydro and wind. European leaders like Austria and Portugal have surpassed the 80% mark. Their systems combine established hydroelectric resources with cheap onshore wind and solar photovoltaics. These regions serve as the operational proof of the transition. They demonstrate that highly diversified grids can maintain reliability even as variable wind and solar become the dominant sources of power. The focus is now shifting to a surge in global electricity demand, which is projected to grow by 3.6% annually through 2030. This growth rate is 50% higher than the average seen over the last decade. In China and India, demand is rising by roughly 6% per year to power industrial growth and the global uptake of electric vehicles. Simultaneously, the proliferation of AI and data centers already accounts for up to 1.5% of total global electricity use. This increased load is moving grid modernization and battery storage to center stage. Generation capacity is no longer the primary constraint. The system now requires the infrastructure to manage and deliver that power reliably. Success in the next phase of the energy transition depends on scaling these supporting technologies. The priority is no longer just adding capacity, but building the resilience and storage needed to stabilize a renewable-first grid.